So Adam Graham of the Detroit News. Thanks, man. It's been a minute.
Absolutely.
How you hanging in there, bro?
Hey, hanging in there, I think is a good way to put it. Getting used to the rhythms of watching things at home. Weirdly, not necessarily missing. I don't know. Maybe I've just come to kind of accept the reality of what we're inside. But yeah, I'm still seeing, a ton of things. If I wasn't seeing anything, I'd be like really, really missing movies, but I haven't been missing any movies yet. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, man. Well, one, it's been a hot minute since we've talked publicly, especially, dude. People know us from Critically Speaking, which of course I haven't been on in March. People wanting to know the true story is Adam got me kicked off the show.
I did.
But that's a whole other podcast.
It's another podcast.
Yeah, man. Not. But no, you have a lot of interesting things. We don't always agree on everything, obviously, but you have a lot of takes on stuff. So I want to pick your brain about a lot of like movie industry stuff, movies that you have seen maybe too. But okay, so let me start there. So you mentioned that you see anyway on a bad week probably 3 movies a minimum. Like sometimes you're seeing 5-6 movies a week. That hasn't really changed in the pandemic because you're still reviewing all the streaming stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, I would say I've been averaging 3, maybe 4 sometimes, where I think prior a lot of times it would be definitely 4 or 5. So I think I've leveled down a little bit, and part of it is the stock, right? The stuff that's coming out. Another thing is it's kind of harder to watch movies at home than it is to go to the theater when your time is dedicated to the movie. I'm in the theater, my phone's off. This is what I'm doing now. Now watching at home, you might pick up your phone, you might look at your email, and then that can lead to a total shutdown of the movie, distraction. The thing I do miss about going to the movies is the time dedicated where it's just you paying attention to the screen. This is a little bit harder just to pay attention.
Well, has the quality of movie though, do you feel like quality of movie across the board? Like, we're sitting here towards the end of July. At this point, is this like any other year where you have, a handful of great movies? I mean, or do you feel like the streaming aspect of things has kind of made has the whole crop just kind of been less than to you?
I think that's kind of fair to say. There some things pop up that are surprises, but you're not having the usual balance of like big fun stuff that you're maybe not taking as seriously, and then that stuff is getting offset by the art house releases or the serious dramas. Now it's kind of all just on this you hate to say less than, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah, right.
That's definitely a notoriety because it's like, I don't know what I'm watching at the beginning of every week. And it's on Monday, you look at the list to see what the streaming things are, and you're kind of hearing about them for the first time, where normally what you're seeing every week for the next 12.
Yeah.
These are the big releases that are coming out. Now it's like every Monday, it's like, let's dive in and see what I'm about to see. And it's all a kind of
how do you how are you casting your net out there too? Because that's been a challenge too that I know, like for me as a critic, is when things are flowing with movies, there's like, behind the scenes, there's, just a couple places where you're getting your movies from. Yeah. Now it's like there could be something coming out on like Quibi, like tomorrow that like, who knows where. Quibi, sponsor of FilmSurvivor podcast. Yeah, I was kidding. Are things slipping through? Have you had any moments through the pandemic where like it's like a Wednesday or Thursday and you're like, shit, seriously, that movie's coming out this week too?
Yeah, I've had a few of those things kind of like, yes, definitely. One of them a couple weeks ago was Greyhound. I had no idea Greyhound was coming.
Yeah, right.
Until you hit me and you were like, it was the contact for Greyhound. And I'm like, Greyhound's coming out? And there's no, if there is a source for those things, I don't know it yet, or I haven't found it yet. And so because I tend to work week to week anyway, I try not to think about the next week until I'm in that week. But yeah, Greyhound was one, and I was like, are you serious? And then there's been a couple things.
Well, to be fair, you were pretty tough on Tom Hanks in Polar Express, so I think that he's kind of kept you away from the press.
They were keeping it from me. They were keeping that news from me until you broke the third wall, the fourth wall.
Welcome.
But yeah, there's been things like that have come out and become sort of big deals, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
That I was like First Cow has been something that a lot of people have been talking about. I didn't see it, so now I feel like I'm way behind the eight ball on something like First Cow, and I can't necessarily just watch it because I got 3 other movies to watch while I'm distracted.
Yeah, right.
Also do my job, so it's like a few things have slipped through the cracks that I feel bad about, and then something like a friend hit me up the other day about Amulet, which is a horror film, which was a small one that came out last week, and now I've seen a lot of people talking about that one. It's just like, again, you choose your 3 for the week, and it's kind of a dice roll. And there's been a few others that I've missed that I've felt bad about, that now I have to somehow at some point play catch up on. And then you end up, you watch something that's really bad. You're like, oh man, that's a waste, because A, nobody knows about it, and B, you're not even hipping anybody to something that's good.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of shining off a bad one or something just because I didn't watch the 2 other ones to slide into those slots.
A bigger picture question. Even prior pandemic, like, what are you like? A lot of critics have different kind of takes as to what their own role is, or what the role of film criticism is. Are you in the boat of you're there to recommend films to people and let people know of things? Because the reason I asked that too is I'm wondering if it's been a harder sell, to get average moviegoers interested in some of these movies that are low budget, that don't have anybody in it that they know, that are coming out on some random streaming platform. What's your goal with criticism in general, and has it changed in the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to I let a reader know whether or not something is worth their time, is kind of the best way that I feel like my services are deployed. And then if something is super big, just kind of like starting the conversation, like, oh, that thing that you heard about, this is where that thing stands. There's some things that I think it's valuable because we've been doing a lot more things that are streaming, obviously, because everything's streaming.
Yeah.
But I might not review that Amazon Prime movie normally, but now it's like, hey man, this thing's on your TV. You probably don't even know you have Amazon Prime Video, but you have it. So check out the 7500 with Joseph Levitt. That was a movie that it's on everyone's TV, but they probably don't know about it. So I'm trying to say, hey man, log into Amazon Prime, set that up, and watch this movie. Same thing with a lot of the Netflix titles, like The Father, Soldier, Son from a couple weeks ago. You have Netflix. Netflix is a sea of an endless sea of titles that just scroll past, and you might never see these things. I thought Father, Soldier, Son was one of the best movies of the year, and I don't think that it would have been on a lot of people's radars normally, because even when you log on to Netflix, it's not hitting, because it's not in the top 10 on Netflix.
Right. Okay. That's
so it's like, waving the flag, being like, hey, you already have Netflix. You're probably watching Dating Around or The Old Guard, but right after The Old Guard ends, watch this thing because it's right there for you. So in general, yes, just trying to I guess let people know, or try to help them say these things are worth your time. And so it's changed during that. And yes, you are able to kind of try to sound the alarm for something that's small, that probably slipped through the cracks. Something like Swallow, which I think is my favorite movie of the year so far. And I don't think anybody knows about it. And that's something that they would have to track down on VOD.
I only know about it because of you, and I missed it. And it's been on my like number one on my list of like movies I know I need to see.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is I'm trying to set myself on fire about that one to let people know that
right.
Seek it out. It's crazy. It's so well done. But you probably don't know about this thing, and you know about it even less because it had no theatrical release to get a groundswell of conversation going. So try to find this thing because it's worth your time.
There's a weird thing that, too, that I'm wondering your thoughts on in terms of just, I guess, the overarching question of this year, are people going to care one way or another? As a critic, I know that, you start getting into this method every year of like the award, not the award season, but like you kind of know that, once a new year happens, you're kind of gearing into like, okay, formulating my list. And as I see things like Swallow is up here and, I saw this movie and now that's good. That's going to be a movie. And you're already thinking of like your top 10 films of the year in February, Usually when people are releasing their top 10 lists, it's in the midst of this massive kind of attention that movies are getting in the industry, because there's all the award ceremonies going on and there's Golden Globe nominations and there's, Oscar nominations and all these things kind of happening, and it creates all this buzz. If this is still going on, Christmas, which there's every indication that it still will be, do you think that people are going to act like, do people actually give a shit about movies this year in terms of like the best movie of the year? And is it like baseball is playing a 60-game season, like somebody wins a World Series, like is that, are they going to have an asterisk next to the name? Is the best picture of 2020 going to have this asterisk? Like, yeah, dude, like if there's 500 less movies came out that year.
Yes, this year is sort of the 2020 baseball season of movie years. But that doesn't mean that good stuff isn't there. And it's kind of, it's an opportunity for stuff that might not have been able to shine in a normal year for those to kind of step up and shine. And if they're telling good stories and if they're, well-made films, then, in the end, if it has an asterisk next to it or not, it might not matter in terms of, the baseball season's different because, you're playing games under these weird restrictions, etc. Movies are still movies, and they were made, to be seen by audiences, or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then that puts it into, it's meant to be seen by an audience in a theater, but it's meant to be. It's telling a story that's meant to be seen. So yes and no, I guess, is an easy way to say it. Good stuff still has an opportunity to shine, and I think that by the time we get to award season, especially with the extra 2 months, this gives studios now 7 more months to figure out how to take that award season crop and kind of trickle it out. We saw that the Aretha movie is now moved back to MLK weekend wide versus it coming out in Christmas for a few in select cities. So that kind of extends the award season in a weird way to uncharted territories. Yes, I think that by the end of the year or by the end of the awards year, that's going to be funny if we're doing our best of lists at the end of 2020 and a ton of award stuff hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's best of lists not come out till the end of February when we've seen everything. That's going to blow the list, the list industrial complex, rock it to its core.
Right.
But yeah, I think by the end of the year or by the end of the awards year, there'll be enough stuff that we'll have it's not going to be Sonic, while it's a good joke, Sonic the Hedgehog nominated for Best Picture. I don't think that's going to be the case. There'll be enough good stuff.
Wait for my list, dude. Of course, at the time that I'd seen it, that was all I had seen for the first 3 months of the year. So it was legit, like that and Invisible Man. But now I've seen
Invisible Man was good, and I've seen Invisible Man top several year to so far.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I mean, so like, do you feel though that this is all let me backtrack. When this all started in like March, April, did you, in your wildest dreams, like think that it would have affected it even to now? Like,
No.
Where are you at right now? And like, what are you hearing? What's your predictions as to like the actual movie theater industry, and not even movies, but just the future of going to the movies? What's that looking like?
I don't think anytime soon we'll be going back. I'm not clamoring to go back until it's, I don't know, some version of safe. I know that like as everything keeps changing, like a month ago, it was looking like we were a go. Maybe a month and a half ago, it was looking like we were a go for mid-July, and now mid-July came and went, and we're even further from it now than we were then. If I'm just guessing, and I could be way wrong, and there's fortunately no penalties for being way wrong, I wouldn't say till next summer, straight up. Like, maybe there'll be some version of the theaters happening, but some normal version of theaters, I wouldn't think till next summer. I wouldn't think till Top Gun 2. And maybe stuff trickles out. I think the concert industry is more screwed than the movies are.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So if people don't know, you're huge into music. You followed, or you covered the music industry basically for the Detroit News for several years before you were the film critic.
Touring shows that come through, absolutely. But I definitely don't think there'll be concerts till next summer, if even then. So much has to go right, and so much has to happen before those things can return. But, obviously when you're dealing with a 15,000 seat arena, it's different than a 200 seat movie theater. So I think movies will be back before then. But I think like Tenet is going to continue to push back. Let's say there's some sort of return in October. I don't know. It seems far-fetched to me.
I think the telling sign.
I'm not on the front lines doing the science either.
Yeah.
I'm hearing what I hear.
Tenet was like the goalpost. They kept moving it, moving it. And then I wasn't necessarily surprised when they took it off the schedule, because it's kind of bad PR to keep moving it and just take it off till you can land it somewhere. But what kind of did surprise me, I mean, not it did and it didn't. Like I was kind of on the same page as you. Like I don't see things getting back to normal where we're going to go to the theater in the fall. But it really drove home like the reality of that when they moved Top Gun and they moved Quiet Place 2, and a couple weeks prior to that they moved Halloween to the next year. Like the studios are clearing out all of their major blockbusters out of the fall. I mean, if you look right now at the release schedule, I think like Black Widow is still tentatively on there for November.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, but like it looks like they know a little bit more than we know, because people keep thinking in their head like, oh, like maybe by September or whatever. It was like first it was maybe by July, and then it was like, oh, by August. No, now it's like by September. I think people really got to get it into their brains that they're not going to be going back to the theater this year.
What's weird about Black Widow is like when it finally comes out, is it going to feel crazy dated? This superhero extravaganza completely made for a different world.
Yeah, right.
I think that like, everything goes in cycles. The Bursby musicals of eventually died out. I think superhero movies might have kind of had their place in the sun in a more normal world. And we get back to screening movies, I don't know if these Marvel movies will continue to make sense, or if they'll be embraced in the way that they have been. Maybe I'm way wrong, and they're embraced even more because they're straight up escapism.
I think that it's going to change, coming from the comic book geek over here, like, when Superman came out just prior to World War II, like it was a different time after World War II. you know, and then by the 60s, you started to get Batman and some of the darker things were happening and they became more realistic. You know, like I feel like we probably don't know what it is yet because we haven't seen it, but I feel like the superhero genre has always kind of been there. Not this Marvel era, like this connected universe thing has kind of been a new, you know, late breaking, you know, phenomenon. But I feel like they're just gonna have to, you know, there's a superhero for every generation, and they're just gonna there's gonna have to come out. They're gonna come out with something that lands with the post-pandemic world.
Yeah,
but Black Widow might not be the thing, you know, because that wasn't geared
but also,
for this
there's these things that have been made that we're waiting to see come out, and so, you know, the grunge didn't kill hair metal. Some releases still trickled out, but when you look back at history, grunge killed hair metal. It wasn't as cut and dry as that. It wasn't Nirvana dropped and then Skid Row dissipated.
Right.
It continued to exist, but in a much lesser fashion. So yes, after we get back to theaters, Black Widow will still come out. And what was the one that was supposed to come out with Kumail Nanjiani and Angelina Jolie? The Intruders, the Invasions, the Invaders.
Oh, yeah. The Immortals.
The Immortals. All these things will still come out, but I feel like if you look at, it was post 9/11 after Spider-Man came out, or right before. Did the first Spider-Man come out in 2002? And
that's a good question.
The modern superhero era, right?
Yeah.
It was Spider-Man to now. Because before that, there were superhero movies in the 90s, and there was Batman and stuff. But the real true blue Spidey to now has been, you know, an era. And I don't know. I wonder what that era's place is now. And if you look at, like, Hamilton was the big movie over July 4th, right? That's a totally different kind of movie experience for the July 4th weekend, which is traditionally the biggest blockbuster that any studio has in their canon.
Right.
This year, in this unusual year, the big movie was a musical, a 2-hour and 40-minute musical that was streaming about, you know, Alexander Hamilton told through, you know, hip hop. I feel like, yes, it's a weird year and it's an outlier, but that could mean it could mean more going forward, that, like, maybe we get away from all these flying, you know, crazy, super gigantic.
Yeah.
I think the studios are going to have less money to toss around on these things after the fact anyway. Things change, which is what I'm saying. And they could possibly change for the better. Like, I won't be mourning the loss. Superheroes had their time. They had a good 20-year run. And if that changes going forward, that's fine. But I think that history may look at that as, like, the superhero era. And now we move on to whatever the next thing is, whether it's some sort of version of I don't know if Hamilton has the kind of influence going forward that maybe, but it's definitely a change. And it doesn't have to be looked at as a sad thing. It's an evolution. And, you know, Ant-Man and the Wasp, come on. I don't know. What is Ant-Man and the Wasp looking forward? I feel like we could go on and some things can change for the better in a sense.
No, I get all that, man. You know, I've read, you know, your articles, believe it or not, once or twice they pop up.
Sure.
And you have strong feelings though too on, well, speaking of Black Widow, early on in the summer you had an idea like that they should just put that on streaming and make it a big thing. But you've kind of really.
I thought it would be awesome if, like, when Kanye and 50 Cent went head to head in 2007 with Graduation and Curtis. If they would,
of course, I remember that.
Black Widow and Wonder Woman 1984, drop them on the same day. Boom, make it an event. I don't care. You can put the Marvel stuff's on Disney, right? So put it on Disney Plus, and I don't know, find a way to get everybody. Isn't there a DC streaming channel as well? However you do it, drop the two on the same day and let the people decide. I thought that would have been a huge event. I think a ton of people would have stayed home that weekend, gotten them both, and then we could have had this fun debate about who won, you know? But now I feel like that time is kind of past in a sense.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like, superheroes don't mean as much now as they did 2 months ago. But yes, that was Now I wonder how good Black Widow will do. I think.
But further though, you went to say that you were kind of one of the early proponents. Like now everybody's, and you just said, maybe summer of next year for movie theaters. But you've kind of gone on record too as to saying maybe no movie theaters. I mean, and like you said, like you used the example of hair metal versus grunge or whatever. I don't know if I've messed that up. But
no, you're right.
But like there might be a trickle. It's not like movie theaters just going to stop and be done. But like when we look back on this time period, like this could, you really feel like this could be the death of the movie theater experience.
Yeah, I think I think for the movie experience as we know it, yes, I think distribution might change after this. I think the types of movies that we need to see on the big screen, I think changes after this. And of course, yes, it won't be in an immediate thing, but I think a couple of years from now, it might be only your Avatars and your Star Wars movies that are the big picture, big sound, let's get together and watch this thing. What's the point of watching The Florida Project on the big screen? Sure, it's a great looking film, but I think that like to round up everybody and go out to the theater, it maybe becomes different, and art house stuff lives at home or lives on VOD. VOD was never. This has put a huge spotlight on VOD that hasn't been there.
Yeah.
At all. For you and I know that like we're not seeking out first run things on VOD ever. Now that's the way those things are coming out, and stuff like the Apatow movie was a big deal for that.
King of Staten Island, yeah.
Palm Springs coming to Hulu, something that a lot of people saw, liked, and talked about, was right to Hulu. And 4 months ago, something going straight to Hulu is seen as less than.
Mm-hmm.
That was a movie that was headed to theaters, and Neon pivoted, put it on Hulu, and a lot of people saw it. And then those people talk, and it's on Hulu right now. I already have Hulu. I can just go watch it. So I think that like, what's the point in the future of Palm Springs going to theaters?
Well, and they also need to be. What could also happen here too is like, again, movie theaters are going to go out of business. Let's be honest. I mean, if there's no movies in theaters, or if there's no movies coming to movie theaters until summer of 2021, you're going to see a lot of places drop out completely. And so by the time movies are ready to come back anyway, they might have way less screens to even come back in the way that they used to. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a completely shifted model of like how these things work. But like where are you at in the whole debate? Because even locally here, we won't name any names, Imagine Theaters, they kind of went into this thing where they tried to go against the governor and did some crazy things like that here. But like they have no other out, whereas if you're Disney or Warner Brothers, they have their streaming platforms. They have all these other ways that they can kind of still try to get their movies out. Restaurants can do curbside delivery, but movie theaters are absolutely, are shut down and not allowed to operate. And the longer that goes on, the more irrelevant they're going to become, and the more hard it's going to be for them to come back. Where do you fall in that debate? Like, is the movie theater industry just like coal miners? Like, is it just something, or like Blockbuster Video, like something that's just like, doesn't have a place anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. You're right, because they don't have another. If they're not open, if they are open, they can do other things. They can show, Press Your Luck, or if you and watch Press Your Luck by Elizabeth Banks, you can do that. But yeah, and they're in a tough position. And like you said, like, you can go through the virtual cinema way. So if you rent whatever the movie is that is out on streaming this week, what was last week? Radioactive was Amazon. The rental.
Yeah, it was IFC.
Yes, IFC, and you can get that through virtual cinema. So your theater of choice gets a cut of that. I don't think it's a big enough cut to survive, and you're not getting concessions off that as well. Mm-hmm. Virtual cinema thing, and if you're a You have to be a real fan of a theater to make sure that you're going through. I just want to see the movie.
Right.
Yeah. So I could go through an art house theater in, Virginia. What do I care? As long as I can.
Yeah.
This movie's showing virtually there.
Or even if you care and it's local, like I like a lot of local theaters, but I'm not going to rent the same movie from all four of them. You know what I mean? I might rent one this week and one over here next week. Yeah.
What comes up first on a Google search? You have to go out of your way to make sure whatever that theater is that you really love gets that. And it's just, what is the buy-in there? What are the odds that you're going to go to those extra steps? So yeah, I think the theaters have a real tough road back. Especially if audiences are getting used to seeing first run movies at home through a click of a couple buttons. What do I need to go to the theater for? Well, then it's because you're going to see it's Avatar 2.
Yeah.
It's the 3D experience. And I think that theaters might get better. Maybe they take time to make that theatrical experience have even more of a bang. So when you do go there, it's worth whatever the upcharge in tickets will have to be in order for them to make some sort of money back. But yeah, I think on the majority of movies like a Palm Springs, watch it at home. You can hit pause. I don't know what the advantage is of seeing Palm Springs on the big screen. And I'm not trying to say that I don't like the big screen experience, because look, nobody likes the big screen experience more than me.
Right.
Nobody's been to the movies more than me, and nobody craves and needs that. But I've become pretty used to not seeing things at the movies, and I'm surprisingly okay with it.
On that note too, though, so I know a lot of times, because again, referring back to critically speaking, Lee would say this a lot. Here's a movie that I wouldn't really go see it in the theater, but it's okay on streaming.
Sure.
It was always kind of this step down,
Sure.
not necessarily a negative, because he's still giving it a thumbs up kind of a thing, but
it's just it's a different way to look at.
Do you find yourself with that now, screen, comparing it, this movie would have been good on this movie would have been good on a theater, or this movie was good that it was on Hulu, and then somehow that's a positive for the movie because it landed in the right area. Isn't that a weird kind of way to funnel stuff?
Yeah, but it's kind of it's true. I mean, Greyhound would have looked great on the big screen. The Outpost would have looked great on the big screen, but in Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth thing would have looked great on the big screen, but was never headed to the big screen anyway because it was a Netflix movie. So yes, you can categorize. You're probably going to get more out of Star Wars on the big screen because that's a cultural ritual of getting tickets 2 months in advance for that midnight showing, holding that ticket in your hand or having it on your phone or whatever, getting ready to go with your friends, hearing the dun, 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 and the whole theater kind of lighting up. But is there any sort of built-in cultural experience for something like Palm Springs? No. So that's why I think that for those big super, Top Gun, I want to watch it on the big screen with a bunch of other, Top Gun fans. You know what I'm saying? It was coming out in a weird year this year. It would have been I think 34 years since the original. At least next year will be the 35th.
Nice.
Top Gun. So that it ends. This is how it was supposed to be. Yeah, a giant thing like that. Yes, I want to see that on the big screen because it's an experience. What's going to be the experience? And it just I don't think that Swallow would have been any better on the big screen. So yes, you can kind of compartmentalize what works on streaming versus what you need to see on the big screen. But I don't know, maybe just the things that you need to see on the big screen lessen, especially when we start seeing stuff like Extraction. Yeah. When it plays just fine on Netflix, and we all have pretty sweet TVs and good sound systems now anyway. Maybe the TVs get even bigger now that we're seeing so many more things at home on them. Maybe our sound systems get even better. And, 5 years from now, we're looking at the stuff that we currently have and being like, remember when the TV was only 55 inches, 6 feet across and 8 feet tall. So I think that home theaters get bigger and better as, you know, the idea of what we're watching at home changes. Home versus theatrical, that thing that, oh, it's okay for streaming, those things might be streaming. And then only the big dogs, your Tom Hanks World War II Navy boat dramas get and deserve that big screen. Because look, dude, when you go see a movie in the theater, they're telling you what time the movie's at, right? We're a very on-demand society.
Yeah, kind of, as you break it down, it starts to feel like a thing that doesn't fit into this society anyway.
You go there. What do you mean it's sold out? Now I got something else because I'm already here and there's people with me, and I'm gonna go, you know, get this big tub of popcorn that's like insanely overpriced. I passed 5 7-Elevens on the way here that I could have gotten a huge Slurpee from. You're telling me I got to pay $6 for this Slurpee just because it's here and because I'm already here? Yeah. We go through a lot just to go to the movies. When we all get out of this, everybody be happy to go to the movies that first time again. You know, clap with the MJR theme song. What about the next time? And are you going back 2 days later? Are you going back 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
You're like, oh man, that was cool. Check that off the list. I remember going to the movies. Now I'm going to settle in until the next gigantic thing that I need to see is coming out, because I don't do that 3 times a week. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
And like Netflix is kind of, you know, especially with stuff like Roma and stuff like The Irishman and stuff like Marriage Story, has been getting us used to the idea of seeing major great things at home.
Mudbound. That was the first movie that came out. I thought it was a mistake that it was like only going to be on streaming. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. It was a weird thing.
And then through last year, it was all of a sudden Netflix was a legitimate thing. It was a legitimate power.
What was the thing with Beasts of No Nation?
Oh yeah.
Was that like
Beasts of No Nation? Yeah.
And it was like that movie must be weird. Why is it
on a streaming? Yeah.
But it was ahead of its time, and it to train audiences. And Netflix has been doing that for 5 years on a major scale. So now we're used to big things coming home right to us. It's gonna be right there. It's gonna be on my TV on Friday. That's awesome. I don't have to do anything. And that seems even more prescient now, since that's the model. Why would you? Are you kidding me? I had to go out. What time is it? It's at 4:10. Now it's 2:15. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I don't know. When movies come back, it's definitely going to be a different business. It has to be a different business because we're different people now. Give me
a good Corey Hall story.
Oh, Corey.
Corey Hall, everybody, is a film critic for the Metro Times in the Detroit area who, as if 2020 couldn't have been any worse, dude, we lost him last month or in the last month. I don't exactly remember the exact date, but just out of nowhere.
I wrote a story about Corey, and the story that I led with in that story is really my favorite Corey Hall story, because it so typifies the Corey Hall experience. There was a screening of Only God Forgives, which is Refn's movie, with Ryan Gosling. And
I happen to love that movie.
Kate Blanchett? Was Kate Blanchett in it? It was an awful movie.
Great movie. I remember it, yeah.
I love Nicholas Winding Refn, but it just totally, it didn't work or anything. But I was such a fan of Drive, and this was the follow-up to Drive, that I was like so dialed into the screen, into the darkness, into the mood of the movie, and it kind of evolved slowly. And it's something that you want to sit with afterwards. And as soon as the movie ended, as soon as the, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn comes up, 3 rows behind me, I hear this. It's like totally ruins the mood that I was trying to carry with me through the movie. And like I didn't have to turn around or anything. I knew it was Corey because Corey was the first and the loudest, right?
Oh yeah.
First one to let you know how he felt, and he would make sure that everybody knew how he felt about something. And I think just everybody has that story. I remember last year when we saw a screening of Parasite, movie ends, hasn't been over for a he's like masterpiece, like just to make sure that everybody knows that he.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then you go from there. And I remember just like after innumerable screenings, he would like, I'm always trying to get out of the theater quickly, and he'd be like, he'd come right up to me, "What's up, Grambo?" And he'd just be like in my face, like talking about.
He called you Grambo?
Yeah, he called me Grambo, which nobody else called. Like my brother's nickname is Grambo.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
But yeah, just Corey was like, first and the loudest is the best way to describe him. And he was, super, super funny, super opinionated, one of the most opinionated people. There's no middle ground. Everything is either the greatest or it sucks the worst.
Well, and that's what I love too. So he was a great talent. I mean, personality wise too, but his writing was awesome. I loved him
really good
as a writer.
Yeah.
And
I was jealous of a lot of his writing.
Not only does he come out and have the convictions about a movie, but like he already has like 30 like points, like bullet points of argument. Like if you were to engage him, like it's all thought out. It's not like fly by the seat of his pants kind of thing.
I think he could easily walk out of a theater and bang out a 500 word review in 45 minutes. Because it's just right there, and he's got it. He's that GIF. He's the GIF of.
He's the Kermit the Frog guy.
Almighty.
Yeah. The one movie I remember, it was one of the first years that I was in the Detroit Film Critics Society, and we all have a group screening at the end of every year. And one of the first movies that I was a part of that group meeting was Blue Valentine, which is a movie with Ryan Gosling and what's her face?
It's all these Gosling movies with Corey.
Yeah, I know. It's always Gosling and Corey Hall have a intertwined history. It was the same thing. I loved that movie, and that's
a great movie.
The credit didn't hit, and he's like, "Well, that was a piece of shit." and it wasn't even that, but he was turning around and like making sure he locked eyes with you to like get your reaction, because it was really important to him to not only get his opinion out but explain why.
No, yeah, and also engage. It was never just. He was never like sitting with his own opinion to himself. He was making sure everyone knew. Then like having the conversation. I mean, I think he really relished the conversation or the points. Yeah,
he's a super cool dude, man. I knew that you knew him well. I just wanted to make sure we talk about him. I was looking
back at my text messages from him, and I had right after the Joker screening, I had like.
Oh, he hated that movie. Hated it.
I loved Joker.
Yeah.
I know that he disagreed with my review of Joker. I was looking back, and it was just like, the movie ended at 9 or whatever, and my timestamp is like 9:01, and he's got all these like, he was right wing, fascist, he's got all like hard. He was never one for like a soft opinion. It was hard.
Well, the same with the Joker. I wish I had it that I could pull up right now to show you, but it was on Facebook. But he found out that I liked it, and his response, it was pure Corey, because you could tell that he was like hurt at the core that I didn't. He wrote something along the lines of like, "Tom, I know you're a decent guy. Like, How in the world could you have liked this huge piece of shit?"
Yeah. Oh wait, I have
it.
Hold on, I'll go back. When did the Joker come out? October.
Sure.
Wow, did I hate that movie? I wrote back. I'm like, oh man, we're on opposite sides of the aisle. He goes, I think it's shallow, empty hackwork with a moral vacuum at its core.
Yeah, that's Corey right there.
Great.
Oh, I gotta read. I'm pulling it up. I think I got it. Let's see here. I'm going through some of his other ones. Dolomite deserves all the love.
Yes. Oh yeah, we were talking about he always loved those the trip movies.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Before the pandemic, he was hitting me up like, when's the screening of the trip to Spain or whatever?
He says to me out of nowhere, Tom, you're a good guy. Why didn't you hate it as deeply? The director is a fraud.
Yeah.
He calls it, yeah.
He hated Todd Phillips, man.
It's morally indefensible.
Yeah, never like, what did you think? I was okay. It's hard lines.
Or some movies you walk out of and you kind of have mixed feelings, and for me, I have to go home and kind of like sort through, like, okay, like that kind of hit me in different ways. Yeah, but anyway, man, I had to mention Corey, dude, just because.
Absolutely.
We haven't talked, and I was just curious to talk about that.
No, that's true. Yes.
Well, let's shift gears just for a couple more minutes, dude, because I know you're also a huge fan of Survivor. What's that? I'm getting word that you are not so much a big fan of Survivor anymore.
I for some reason I fell out of habit with it.
Dude, you got to get back. Last year was really awesome.
Show. It's a great show.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't out of habit with it.
Are you going to be in on Big Brother though, dude? Because here's a good sign about the state of Adam Graham is when you start texting me with some inside Big Brother scoop that I hadn't even heard yet, and then of course it was all over social media like 5 minutes later. But like,
yeah,
dude, are you going to be in on the new season of Big Brother?
100%. I was like 2 weeks ago. I kind of, obviously this summer is out of whack for numerous reasons, but I realized it's the first summer since I was kind of in and out on the very first season in 00, but from 01 on, what I do in the summer is I watch Big Brother, and kind of realizing that that had been lost. I was like, and where the CBS announcement hit me that like they're starting back August 5th. So yeah, I'm super, super stoked. I hope that it comes off. There's not complications. The Marlins don't throw everything out of whack with
right
8 confirmed cases in 2 days.
Well, as we're taping this, they haven't yet officially announced the Big Brother cast, but we know it's an all-star season. Any all-stars that you are wanting to, that would like make your day to know that they played again? I know you're a huge Giesling fan, aren't you?
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to come back. And
that's what it sounds like.
I don't think he's going to come back, and I don't think he'll ever come back. I think that he's one of the few guys in the reality TV world that realizes there's integrity in not constantly selling yourself out. He can retire the greatest, and if he goes back and gets voted out the first week, the legacy is ruined.
Yeah.
Why taint that?
He's like Boston Rob, but Boston Rob comes back though this last season only because it's an all-winner season. Like he had been retired and like done with, because what else can you do in the game of Survivor? But like when it's the best of the best, all winners against each other, like that's when he felt like, hey man, I'm gonna go back out there. But yeah, he's kind of reached that status that few people have in the reality competition world.
The when he pulled the funeral, I mean, it's the greatest of all time. And
yeah.
So I don't think that there's any value in him going back. And then I've heard there's talk of Janelle coming back. It's like, we've seen Janelle come back like 5 times.
50 times, yeah.
I love Janelle in like 06 or whatever. So the funny thing about Big Brother is it's the biggest part of your life and then it's gone. And then I spent all those time with those people. So as long as they bring back some fun people, I'm happy with it. I'm just happy to have the idea of Big Brother back. And it seems like Coconuts, Nicole Franzel is coming back. I'm a big Nicole fan. And, like Brittany Haynes has come back like 3 times. I think Brittany Haynes.
Yeah.
This will be Nicole's third time back. I think it should be 3 and done because she came back and won the last one. Good for her. I think she's great in the house. I'm excited to see her.
I'm sick of Paul, dude. I'm sick. I know he's played a couple times. I'm sick of Paul, man. That season, the way that they like bullied and like got everybody together, just was like one of the most unpleasant seasons of Big Brother ever. And I've heard his name being thrown around as part of this cast. So like, dude.
Well, he got runner up twice, right?
Yeah, I know he played twice. It was a runner-up twice. It might be.
I think he was runner-up both times because he screwed everybody in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody
But
wanted
also
to
his
vote for him
style
in
of
the end.
gameplay of just like didn't allow for any drama or whatever. It was very
Exactly.
good. Like he had that kind of game, like a Boston Rob kind of game, except he couldn't win at
Evil
the end.
Dick.
Yeah.
And I think Evil Dick definitely wouldn't play as well today as he did then. But you could win it back then with that style of play. Now you can't because it's just I think a generation is playing and feelings come into it so much more at the end, where it's not about gameplay, it's about what you did to me personally. I'm just excited to have Big Brother back, and I cannot wait. And I hope it's not a scaled down, like it's a month. It's like
right.
Big Brother timeline. I want a full season, and I hope that the CBS ain't got nothing else to play.
I heard that they might just air it. I mean, Survivor's not on the calendar at the fall, right? Survivor's gone.
Oh well, yeah, because they can't.
Survivor's yanked. Yeah, they can't shoot in Fiji, so they're at the latest I heard on Survivor is that the earliest that they might be able to film in Fiji would be in September. And that'd be like starting filming, which means that they may or may not have a season ready in the spring, but maybe one next summer and then get back on, get on chart again. But yeah, man.
But I would think as long as everyone's quarantined going into the house, once you're in the house, it would seem to be the safest place in America, right?
But there's crew, there's people breaking down sets in the yard and then back and forth, and there's people restocking food and changing mic batteries and diary room, so there's a lot of shit we don't see.
You're right, I'm wrong. That's true.
And that's on that note, let's end it. That's how I want to end this. So
no, that
dude,
is true.
Hey man, I miss talking to you, dude.
Can you imagine how much of a bummer that would be if you're in Big Brother, you're quarantined, you're good, and then some stock boy for you because they were putting the peas in the pantry? That would be the worst.
That's not cool, dude. Not cool. Oh. That would be my Big Brother.
We usually see each other a couple times a week, and we haven't seen each other at all for months.
Yeah, on paper, I thought that would be great, but it has in fact sucked a little bit. Yeah, man. I miss hamming it up with you guys too. Hope everything's going good. Where can the fine people who are still listening or watching this thing? Where can they find you?
On the tweet machine at.
And it is a machine for you, dude. This guy he tweets them out like he's got something ready for everything.
I try not.
On top of it.
I really try to scale back. I'm on there, and I'm at the Detroit News. I'm writing reviews for the Detroit News. So I'm there.
What's the story with the news, man? Any inside story you can give us with that? Are you okay over there, man?
Oh yeah, all's well. We're taking care. We're TCB, baby. Business. No, yeah, all's well. We're grinding it out and trying to, get to the make sure all the movies are getting seen and reviewed.
All right, bro. Well, hey, man, Adam, thank you so much, dude, for joining me here today. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you out there. Hopefully, we'll be in some kind of a theater at some point in the next year. I don't know.
We'll be in virtual pods. And, we'll be on headset. We'll have Elon Musk things. We'll communicate.
Beekeeper suits will all be led into the theater one by one. Yeah. Perfect.
I think that this is the time you should try out for Survivor.
Now is the time, right?
Now is the time.
I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yes.
That's not true. Yeah, dude, I might as well. Screw it. My only hope was that maybe there was some cool stuff online when we knew that they couldn't tape in Fiji. People started going back to the old school Survivor was like every year was like a different location, right?
Yeah.
Every season was like, China and Thailand or whatever. They were starting to do some American themed ones. Like, how about like Survivor, like Wild West or like something cool like that, where you could like shoot it here. I'd do that, man. I just don't like flying.
Survivor Clinton Township.
Hey, man. Don't knock that. I've been doing that for years. I'm a pro at that.
I know. All
right, brother. No, man, thank you again, dude. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Film Survivor podcast. Adam Graham, Detroit News. Keep on keeping on, my brother. Good deal?
All right, good things.
Peace.